The words only a weak mind could speak, and what they reveal about you. People think weakness shows in trembling hands, in avoided eye contact, in the way someone breaks under pressure. But the truth is darker. A weak mind doesn't reveal itself when life gets loud. It reveals itself in the words spoken quietly, the phrases repeated without awareness, the sentences that slip out when the mask is tired. And that's exactly how this story begins. Not with shouting, not with chaos, but with a man who didn't even know he was exposing himself. One sentence at a time. His name was Adrian. Sharp features, controlled expression, cold posture that looked like strength to anyone who didn't understand human psychology. But strength is not in appearance. It's in the vocabulary a mind uses when it thinks no one is analyzing it. Adrian didn't know he was being watched. He didn't know the person sitting across from him, a behavioral psychologist named Mara, was trained to recognize the hidden meanings behind casual sentences. The room was dim, lit only by a narrow window that let in more shadow than light. Outside, the world was noisy, but inside, silence ruled. That's when it started. A small sigh escaped Adrian's lips. One of those tired breaths people give when they're trying to hold themselves together. And then he said it. Nothing ever works out for me anyway. Mara's eyes sharpened, the first revealing phrase, not because of what it meant, but because of what it exposed. A mind that expects failure before reality even has a chance to decide. Weak minds predict disaster as a shield, so when it happens, at least they can say they saw it coming. And when it doesn't happen, they destroy it themselves. Adrian looked away, unaware that he had already revealed his first wound. Then came the second phrase, "It's whatever. I'm used to disappointment." Mara didn't respond. Silence makes the weak mind talk more, because it hates the sound of its own vulnerability echoing back. Adrian tapped his fingers nervously on the table. His foot shifted. His jaw tightened. All signs Mara recognized instantly. The signals of a person speaking from a place of fear, not truth. Minutes passed. The room stayed still, thick with unspoken thoughts. And then, Adrian dropped the third phrase. "I don't expect anything from people anymore." The most revealing one so far, a sentence rooted in old betrayals, the kind that still haunt a person even when they pretend they've moved on. Mara watched him closely. She wasn't listening to the sentence itself. She was listening to the origin of the sentence, the childhood memory attached to it, the disappointment that shaped it. Adrian rubbed his forehead. He didn't notice his voice changing. Quieter, shakier, more exposed. Mara did. She leaned back, letting him fall deeper into his own truth. Because weak minds unravel when they feel safe enough to talk, but scared enough to slip. And that's exactly what he did next. Another sigh, another crack, another phrase. People always leave when things get difficult. Mara's heartbeat slowed. She had heard thousands of people say this same line, but it always meant the same thing. Someone left him long before he learned the meaning of stability. But before she could speak, something unexpected happened. A sudden noise, a thump from the hallway. Not loud, not threatening, just enough to interrupt the moment. But Adrian reacted like someone touched a nerve. His shoulders jolted. His breathing stuttered. His eyes darted toward the door. And then he whispered a phrase he didn't even realize escaped his lips. "Not again. I can't go through this again." That was the moment Mara realized the truth. He wasn't speaking about disappointment. He was speaking about something specific, something from his past, something he didn't want to remember, but couldn't escape. The room felt colder now. Shadows pressed closer. Even the silence sounded different. Adrian clenched his fists under the table. His pulse was visible in his neck. Fear, not fresh but familiar, ran through him. Mara finally spoke, not loudly, not sharply, just enough to cut through his spiraling thoughts. "Adrian, what happened to you?" He didn't answer. His eyes dropped to the floor, avoiding her gaze like a child avoiding the truth. She leaned forward. The words you're using aren't random. They're coming from somewhere specific, something you survived, but never understood. Adrian swallowed hard. A long pause. A trembling breath. A truth fighting to surface. Then he whispered, "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." Mara's voice lowered. "Try me." Adrian lifted his head slowly. His eyes were darker now. Not angry, not sad, but haunted. And then he said the phrase that changed the entire direction of the conversation. The phrase no strong mind has ever spoken. The phrase that reveals the deepest psychological fracture a person can carry. The last time I trusted someone, someone got hurt. Mara froze, not because of the words, but because of what they hinted at. Guilt, trauma, a secret he never intended to reveal. The air thickened, the tension sharpened. Adrian's breathing grew faster, like he was remembering something he didn't want to remember. But before Mara could ask her next question, before he could confess the truth hidden behind that phrase, Adrian suddenly went silent. Not the silence of fear, not the silence of avoidance, a different silence. The silence of someone who just noticed something, or someone, that he didn't expect to be there. His eyes locked onto something behind her. And whatever he saw made his entire body stiffen, as if he had seen his past walk back into the room. Adrian wasn't looking at Mara anymore. His eyes were fixed on something behind her. Focused, unblinking, almost terrified. Mara didn't turn around. She knew that when people respond to shadows that way, they're not seeing the present. They're seeing a memory that never died. "Adrian," she said quietly, "what do you see?" He didn't answer. His jaw was clenched so tight the muscles trembled. His breathing was shallow, uneven. Then his lips parted, slowly, and he whispered, "Her." Mara's brows tightened. "Who?" A beat, a long, heavy beat. "The person I couldn't protect." And just like that, everything connected. The phrases, the fear, the guilt, the silence. This wasn't just childhood abandonment. It wasn't just emotional wounds. This was trauma tied to a single event. One mistake that rewrote the way he spoke, behaved, and thought. Mara stayed perfectly still. Strong minds stay calm when someone else's world starts collapsing. Weak minds panic. She had learned to be the calm. "Adrian, tell me what happened." He finally blinked. A slow, painful blink, like someone pulling themselves out of the past. Then he spoke. "I trusted someone once. Too much. Too blindly." His voice cracked, not dramatically, but in the way a person cracks when holding in a truth for far too long. "And because I trusted her, she walked into something she shouldn't have." Mara listened. Every word was a confession disguised as memory. "I should have stopped her. I should have seen the signs." His hands trembled now. "But I didn't. I believed her when she said she was fine." Mara recognized that tone, self-blame that had fermented for years. Was she hurt? He shook his head slowly, then said the word that had shaped his entire vocabulary. "Gone." The room felt colder instantly. "Adrian, you were not responsible." He cut her off, his voice sharp with old pain. "I was the last person with her." Silence filled the room again, but not the silence of avoidance, the silence of truth sinking in. All the phrases he had spoken earlier suddenly made sense. "Nothing works out for me. I'm used to disappointment. I don't expect anything from people. People always leave. The last time I trusted someone, someone got hurt. These weren't random. They were the vocabulary of a man who believed he was a danger to anyone he cared about." Mara leaned forward, her voice steady. "Adrian, listen to me carefully." His eyes flickered to hers, defensive, fragile, hopeful all at once. "Weak minds don't speak the way you did today. Weak minds hide behind pride. They avoid truth. They pretend." He frowned, confused. "Then what am I doing?" "You're confronting the memory you've been running from. And that is something only a strong mind can do." Adrian swallowed hard. For the first time, there was no fear in his expression, just exhaustion. But exhaustion is what healing looks like at the beginning. He looked down at his hands. They were still shaking, but the tension was fading. So, what do I do now? Mara answered without hesitation. You stop carrying someone else's fate as your punishment. You stop defining yourself by one moment you couldn't control. He took a slow breath, longer than the others. Steadier. And the word? He asked quietly. The things I say, what do they reveal about me now? She smiled faintly. That you're done hiding behind them. Adrian leaned back in his chair, not in defeat, but in release. For the first time since she met him, he didn't say anything self-destructive. No phrases shaped by fear, no sentences rooted in guilt, no signs of the weak mind he thought he had. He was changing, not loudly, not dramatically, but undeniably. After a long silence, he finally spoke. This time his voice didn't tremble. This time his words didn't reveal weakness. I think I want to try again. Mara nodded slowly. That's the first strong sentence you've spoken today. He stood up. The weight he carried wasn't gone, but it was no longer controlling him. At the door he paused, looked back, and said the one sentence that marked the end of his old self and the beginning of something stronger. I'm done living in the shadow of who I used to be. And with that, he walked out. Not as the man shaped by guilt, but as the man finally free from it.